Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Bolton. I'm going to be discussing the discussion board flight scenario. So, just to read the scenario to begin with, we are talking about a student working on their commercial. They flew a 132 nautical mile trip um, from Richmond to Dare County. Not really familiar with either of those airports. Don't think that that'll matter here, but we're not going to land due to a deer on the runway. What do you do? Do you fly directly back to Richmond, 132 miles away? Can you log as cross country time? What are all the considerations in your decision making process? Okay, to start, it's a deer. So, the deer will move. Uh, I would begin with staying in the pattern and making another uh, attempt, see if the deer is going to move. If I have somebody else in the aircraft, maybe they can keep an eye on the deer, see where it's going, or try to do that myself. Get the deer to move off of the runway and then make another attempt to land. Maybe do a low approach, see if that will scare the deer off. Um, another opportunity might be to look up in the AFD for that airport, see if there's a phone number, maybe an FBO or a airport manager, somebody listed. You should be low enough. I would call them up and say, "Hey, can you guys remove the deer on the runway?" That might not be an option if it's untowered airport, but I would continue to make an attempt to land. I don't think that that's going to be stopping you from landing at that point. But let's just say that the deer is laying down on the runway and unable to move. So at that point, I would divert to my alternate. So since you're not flying within the vicinity of your departing airport, you have an alternate pick, and for this reason, you could fly to the alternate. You can make your landing, um, and you could reassess your flight back at that point if you need to change your route. So that's what I would do. I would just continue to make an attempt to land, and I wouldn't exceed my fuel on board. I would not fly directly back to Richmond. So, can you log it as cross country time? So, there's two different types of cross country time. There's the cross country time that is needed to go work towards your commercial rating or your certificate, and there's the cross country time that anybody can log. So, the definition of cross country time that anybody can log is basically any flight that includes a landing at a point other than your departure that includes the use of dead reckoning, pilotage, electronic navigational aids, radio aids, and other navigation systems to navigate to the landing point. And that's 61.1 Bravo 3I. So if you look that up, basically every flight that you do is going to include one or all of those means of navigation, and it doesn't have any kind of distance requirement. So yes, you can log it as cross-country time. If you want to be able to log it as time towards your commercial certificate, if you look up 61.101 Charlie, you'll see that cross-country time requires a point of landing 50 nautical miles away in a straight line distance from your point of departure. So that's for logging cross-country time for the purpose of attaining your certificate. Slightly different. Okay. In this scenario, you do accomplish both. You have gone the 132 nautical miles, which exceeds your 50 nautical mile requirement for your cross-country time, and so you can log it as both. But just for everybody else's awareness, um, even if you were 30 miles away, you could log it as cross-country time, but that is not going to get you the minimums for your commercial certificate. But as far as cross country time overall, yes. So when you apply to your interviews down the road, and then what are all the considerations in your decision making process? Okay. So if you're diverting, are you going to your original planned airport, which you've calculated fuel and everything for? Or is your diversion going to take you to another airport that will require more fuel to be burned? At that point, are you going to try to calculate that fuel burn in the air, or are you going to land, fill up, be on the safe side, that sort of thing? So that would be one concern. It is 132 nautical miles away, so you're probably right on the cusp of using pretty much all your fuel on board, minus having reserves, depending on what kind of general aviation aircraft you have. Other considerations would be how long are you trying to make your attempt of landing with the deer on the runway before you actually do divert somewhere else, and how far away is your other airport going to be? How much time is that going to eat up in your flight plan? If you originally planned on coming back at 6 o'clock and now you spend an extra 30 minutes trying to land, well, now with daylight savings time changing everything, it might put you in like a nighttime scenario. So are you familiar with your destination at nighttime and the landings, um, with the lighting system? Let's say the lighting system is actually in op for that airport. Just the other day, I went to Golden Isles, and their airport lighting was in op. It was pilot controlled, and only the approach lighting would light up, but nothing around the runway. And there was no NOTAM or anything like that. So it is a possibility that something could be not working and not a part of your plan. So delay in flight would be one of my considerations. Also, whenever you get a delay in flight, you also have a change of weather usually, because you look at the weather for your window, an hour before, hour after your time of landing. But if you push it out an hour, then is your time of landing going to actually now be in worse weather or more favorable weather? So that's also something to take into consideration. And then also, you're working on your commercial, so maybe you don't exactly have like a purpose of being there, but is there additional stress for making the flight? Um, I would say I would say no in a training scenario, but maybe the student doesn't realize he could land at any airport and still achieve his landing required to log a cross-country flight. So that is one of the other requirements for the cross-country flight is you need to make a landing. So if you aren't able to make the landing at your destination, you can land at another airport like your alternate, and then make your return flight back and still be able to log that all as cross country time. So for the purpose of um, attaining your commercial requirements, yes, you would make a landing somewhere, and then you'd be able to log that trip. For the purpose of not attaining your commercial requirements, you would not be able to log it as cross country time if you didn't make a landing, but you'd still be able to log it as flight time. So if you came back without making any landing, no, it wouldn't be cross country time, but you could still log it as the flight time. So I hope this answers everybody's questions on this scenario, and I look forward to reading everybody else's. Thank you.